Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Marketing Mondays, where we unravel the strategies and trends shaping the world of marketing. Today, we have the privilege of hosting an exceptional marketing leader who has not only navigated the dynamic landscape of marketing, but also has charted the course of the global team success. Please join me in welcoming our esteemed guest, Mr. Manoj Jasra, Chief Marketing Officer and Senior Vice President Strategy at Accolite Digital. Thank you, Manoj, for joining us today. Our focus is on the strategic interplay between B2B marketing trends and the blueprint for global team success. So before I proceed with the questions, I would like to introduce yourself in a brief so that my audience would get to know better about you.
Yes, thank you for having me. I've been in the digital and marketing space for over 20 years. Most recently, I am at a new company. It's Accolite Digital was a previous company. Now we've merged, actually. So now we're Bounteous Accolite, an end-to-end digital transformation player with 5,000 people globally. And you know what? In my career, I've kind of moved around in a variety of different sectors. So I played in leadership roles across travel, hospitality, airlines, telecommunications, dining, and now into private equity and consulting. So I've got a lot of different perspectives from my background. And I look forward to having a discussion with you today.
Well, thank you very much for this brief introduction. So, a few questions, just quick questions, I would say. So, how does digital transformation impact B2B marketing, and what adjustments can team make to stay ahead?
Yeah, it's actually digital transformation, and now digital transformation, I would call it like it's now consistent and it's embedded into everything we do. So I would say 10 years ago, digital transformation was really critical. Now it's like at the front and center of everything that happens, whether it's in marketing or operations or almost in any part of the business. So for marketers specifically, I would say the key things now is, I think, leveraging data and technology in everything we do to improve the speed and efficiency. So our stakeholders are looking for, obviously, quality, they're looking for speed, and they're looking for efficiencies, and they're looking for outcomes. So leveraging data is critical. Like, for example, everything we do needs a response of what was the end outcome that we delivered for them, and what was the result. So in B2B marketing, obviously lead generation, so that we can provide high quality marketing qualified leads or sales qualified leads into the pipeline for organization. If we can measure each step as we go forward and how our strategies impact each part of the funnel, that's critical, and that's now the basis of everything we do. Additionally, as marketers, I think with the oncoming of generative AI over the last year, especially, I think it's now important to embed that into almost every aspect of our life cycle of creation of content, or into the marketing strategies, or into the demand generation or campaigns themselves. So I would say for marketers, we need to find ways to be more efficient, because that's the expectations of our stakeholders. And I would say, lastly, having integrated technologies, so that oftentimes you might not use, for example, Salesforce across the board for your demand generation or your technology stack. So if you're using different technology stacks, having them well integrated so that data can be passed on from your marketing communications engine to your media engine to your CRM and your analytics, making that work seamlessly and having no leakage of data across these areas, I think will lead to a really effective strategy as we go forward. That's really 3 or 4 areas of digital transformation, and integrating that into kind of your day-to-day operations.
You have talked about lead generation, demand generation. So my next question will be about account-based marketing, which of course lead gen is subset to the account-based marketing. So in ABM personalized engagement, how can marketing team ensure consistency across diverse global markets?
Yeah, and it's actually really tough to do that. What I find is there's needs to be consistency in the way the brand is represented, right? I think marketers should hold that true to themselves, regardless of kind of wherever in the globe you are. Now, what changes in global markets is the fact that you might have different ideal customer profiles and different sets of leaders. For example, our organization operates in North America, EMEA, and APAC as well. So based on the size of the companies that we are targeting, and based on the needs of that company, say we're targeting, I don't know, a technology company in the US versus a banking and financial company in India. Although we want to remain consistent from a brand perspective, I think it's actually better if we tailor our strategies, especially for ABM, which is meant to be more of a one-to-one strategy, so that we can be relevant to the market and relevant to the needs of the stakeholder. So I think although you want consistency for the sake of scale, it's actually better if you have consistency at the brand level, but personalization at the regional level, so that actually fine-tunes your overall campaigns to be more successful. I think that way you're not just providing a blanket approach on your overall strategy and expecting the consistent results, because you know that people in the US, people in Canada, India, UK, they're going to engage with content very differently. And so I would say in order to find global consistency, it should be at the brand level, and then use tools and technologies to get scale, but then personalize at the content level and the campaign level, so you can actually achieve the most optimal results. That's how I would build a strategy.
Well, that's very insightful. And when you talk global things, so I would say AI and ML are the emerging terms. So how can marketing teams leverage AI and automation for improved collaboration and remote work?
Yeah, I think to me, for collaboration, I find that for AI specifically, I think it's best used in content generation and ideation. I think those are opportunities. And even I would say it's really well used for insights and analysis afterwards as well. For collaboration, I think tools like Asana or Monday.com or Slack, I think they're better for that. So I think although there are AI assistants baked into those platforms now, but when you're looking at like, you know what, how do we develop creative faster? I think there's generative AI opportunities there, or even ideation in terms of how you would tackle a specific sample problem in terms of like, how do you kind of break through to a specific ideal customer profile or segment or a different industry? I think AI can help there. I think for scale purposes in getting content, whether it's copy or video or imagery, I think AI will play a big role there as well. So I think building that into your day-to-day functions is important. I think it's no longer, although it's been only a year, I think it's there's no excuses not having that baked into your kind of day-to-day functions, because if you don't, I think you're actually falling behind. And I think as your stakeholders are using AI technologies, they expect marketing to be using that as well. And then secondly, I think for analysis, I think when you have large data sets afterwards, when you're trying to find insights, I think AI will be another tool or set of technology we can use to actually speed up the analysis, so we can find those hidden gems, which will tell us what are the key abandonment rates, what are the kind of gaps to conversion, what else can I test as we go forward to get greater results. So I think that's how I see AI kind of building into for automation. Collaboration, I think there's other good, better technology and tools that have AI built into them. So yeah, that's my thought.
So I'm trying to touch almost every corner of the marketing. So content marketing, something which I have not touched. So in the evolving landscape of content marketing, how can marketing teams collaborate effectively with the goal of the entire marketing team?
Yeah, and with global marketing teams, like obviously you're dealing with like languages and different cultural things as well, in order to be building scalable marketing programs. So I think one thing that we're doing is I think the collaboration around using the right technology and tool set. For example, we use Slack. So all companies have, whether it's Teams or Slack or Zoom. I think that's critical for having that as a core center of your process. I think a really robust set of, and this is more logistical, I think flexibility in regards to work hours is very critical as well, and being mindful of having, you basically with global teams, you have like a 24-hour ability to build strategies. And I think that's effective so that you can almost build content at the scale of an entire day versus having to wait kind of like cycles and cycles if you were only a North American-based teams. And I think building central content repositories so that your content can be accessed through all parts of the world and then be scaled as it needs to be built as well. I think having good collaboration with team members who are both in local regions as well as global regions. So rather than having your entire group of, say, design sitting in, say, an offshore center in, say, in India, I like to have like integrated teams sitting in North America and say our offshore teams, and therefore they're collaborating on similar exercises. Because what happens is if you give strategy and you send it over to, say, a different market to perform, I think that you lose that collaboration. But if there's actually designers and copywriters and creators of content who have the ability to work on different parts of the puzzle, they actually build a lot more collaboration that way. And then they're working together to solve the problem rather than saying, here's a handoff, I'll see you tomorrow and I'll expect the result. I think that's not as effective as collaborating on building a project together.
So with AI and ML and content and everything, we get a lot of data. So crafting globally resonant content, how can organizations use data for relevance?
Yeah, I'm just going to think about this one before I answer it. So this was a tough one that actually stumped me. So maybe we can edit this one afterwards so I can think about this one if that's okay. I'm just going to think about it and then give you an answer in 1 second here. Collect my thoughts. So to answer your question, I think analyzing kind of universal themes is very critical to understand, what are the different overarching themes that could help for relevance. And then I think tailoring content that is relevant for local markets so that content resonates based on the analytics. So if you're deploying a variety of different content, understanding that regionally, understanding that by segment, understanding that by cultural preferences, that allows us to take the results back based on the data that we're achieving from it, receiving from it, and then tuning that to fit the overall overarching region. I think that's going to be important. And I think one thing that marketers often forget is I think we're so quick to go on to the next project and the next campaign. I think needs to be a very effective way of monitoring content that has a really good closed loop system so that once it's in market, that the opportunity should be to go to the next campaign. It actually should be to refine the campaign so that we can improve it for conversion. We can improve it for personalization. We can improve it for the engagement that market requires. And rather than going on to the next campaign, I think there should be that closed loop system so that we are redefining and refreshing our content as we go forward, because that ultimately becomes the baseline for us to progress. And I think we're too quick often to move on to the next campaign and assume a bunch of results have been created rather than really understanding based on feedback, based on analytics, based on metrics, based on even like our stakeholders, their needs. And I think that, to me, building that kind of day-to-day input into your overall strategy will actually creates an overall a better approach to marketing.
Okay. And, everything is going global. So how can marketing teams use data to navigate different cultural differences for better collaboration?
Yeah, I think the best one is that how do you start to implement feedback that is region specific because I think if you did things again globally, you wouldn't get the nuances and perspectives of the different cultures. So I think although data is obviously typically quantitative, I think qualitatively, if we're asking for feedback and understanding that within each region, I think that allows us to build perspective and put that overall view into the overall strategy. And so kind of similar to my answers before, the best way to get the most out of kind of global and cultural campaigns and strategies is to make sure that you have regional preferences and regional feedback so that you can integrate that into your overall approach. Otherwise, when you start to apply large amounts of strategy that is too global in nature or too all-encompassing, I think you actually miss out on opportunities to refine and really meet those specific cultural differences. I think that's the most effective way I would go forward.
Oh, yes. And, when we talk about global things, and technology and everything, so reflecting on technology, how can marketing teams apply agile methodologies for quick adaptation? Because it is very important when different cultures meet together.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I learned early in my career, and this was at one of the telcos I worked for, we quickly learned that, software development teams had been working in agile methodologies for a number of years, right? And therefore, They had the concept of Scrum Masters. They had the concept of working in sprints. So therefore you're making iterative process rather than trying to accomplish massive amounts of work. So one of the things that has worked well in my life is that putting in the same type of pod structure that exists in software development teams into marketing itself. So imagine a structure where rather than having like different team members sit in different groups, what if you had a campaign or strategy you're working on and you had a leader, call it a project manager or the overall coach, and then you had a designer, you had a copywriter, you had a strategist, and you had a data analyst sitting all next to each other with the focus of launching that campaign iteratively. And that whole pod's purpose is to go do that specific task. Now they almost turn into that agile team and they can leverage tools like Trello or Jira, similarly like software development teams. And now you're working within this unit and it feels like one unit versus trying to hand off to different parts of the group. And that entire unit through the daily stand-ups, they actually know what's happening across the entire initiative. And they're also able to iteratively produce results of just like a software development agile team. And I think that can be accomplished in marketing itself.
All right. So what you have talked about is, something about high-performing teams of different cultures and different walk of lives. So how can marketing teams embrace B2B trends to build high-performing, culturally aware teams?
I think it's super important for marketers at the pace that the world is changing in terms of the ability to create content most effectively, the tools to analyze content, and actually the amount of content that is just created in general. You're actually having to level up your game quite a bit because individuals like, social media influencers are creating content as good as, say, brands like Coca-Cola right now as well, right? And I would say tools are being built every day to make your job easier. And I think more than ever before, a marketer, especially in the B2B space, has to stay abreast of a variety of different tools, technologies, platforms, stacks. And sometimes it can be overwhelming, but I would say it's important to continuously upgrade your learning. And whether it's through Google or LinkedIn Learning or whatever it is, there's so many platforms to continuously build your professional development. I think that's important. And for me, it's always been important to stay on the kind of the leading pulse of what's happening and trying to implement that into your day-to-day, because if you don't, you kind of fall behind very, very quickly. Secondly, I think if you are working for global teams, one advantage you have is, technologies and tools and strategies get launched in different markets at different kind of paces, right? So if you've got global teams, you actually have the value-added opportunity to gain insights from different countries before even things land in your own country. And I think taking advantage of that and taking advantage of how different organizations within your organization solve problems with those technology sets actually allows you to be more effective in actually building your strategies. So as you go forward, I think the way I would leave it would be is it's in your own best interest to stay on top of trends because they're coming faster than ever before. Use global teams to learn more about different perspectives and technologies that exist in their platforms and learn from each other. And be okay to implement small things as pilots so that you can not just read about them, but implement them to understand how they're having impact into your day-to-day and whether they're highly valuable or not. I think theoretical is often kind of too broad. It's actually the physical aspect of implementing things and seeing things in market. That's where you truly get value. So it's okay to be, just like we talked about the agile question, it's okay to test and learn your way through technologies and things like that within your own hands as well.
I would say wonderful advice. Thank you, Manoj, for sharing your invaluable insights into the complex world of B2B marketing. Today, actually, we have delved into the strategic interplay of trends and global team success. A conversation that undoubtedly sparks inspiration for marketing leaders around the globe. As we wrap up this edition of Marketing Mondays, remember to stay tuned for more captivating discussions with industry leaders, shaping the future of marketing. If you found today's insight valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you, Manoj. Thank you, audience.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.